And the objective of this session is very simple. It's to talk about safety systems. And you'll all be proud of their safety system. No safety system is perfect. It constantly reveals new areas for improvement and little weak spots. And that's a good thing. A good safety system should encourage the discovery of those things, and then people attack them and improve them all the time. Now, I just want to focus on one such area. And it's here. Section 23 of the Victorian Occupational Health and Safety Act specifies that safety information must be provided to employers of the employer, and you understand for the purposes of the Act, employees, employer, very broad, in such other languages as appropriate. That's this phrase that I want to focus on. And I'll also just take a little sidetrack and talk about safety information. Now, that's not just the safety induction. That's every pre-start meeting. If you're standing around in a lift and the rigger says stand back, that's safety information. And if you miss that, that's a big thing to miss. Safety information is all around us, broadly defined. Now, like all pieces of legislation, it's pretty vague. It's not like every provision of every law is policed 24 hours a day and they come and penalise it for every breach. Life would be insufferable. It's already pretty bad. But what they do is they wait until some serious accident occurs, it goes before the magistrate, and then they look at all the factors. Now, on the one hand, that's a common sense approach to law, because we've got to get on with life. But there's a downside. It entrenches complacency. It thinks, well, we've got away with everything so far, must be all right. How are you going to predict things like this? Are you going to get some super diligent, like OH&S nerd to search the legislation for you and do these things in advance? Or we're going to wait until the horse is bolted, because that happens. Everyone says, oh shit, we should have worried about that because someone's lost a limb. Yeah? And people do. This is a big thing. 2008, the record fine from Foster's, just around the corner from my office, a guy who got crushed between a door and a handrail.
That's handy, just around the corner from your office.
Oh, yeah. How much of a contributing factor it was mentioned by the judge. It was certainly picked up by the union, but he didn't speak English very well.
Yeah.
This is in Victoria. There's quite a few examples. People in Queensland, Chinese welders, a guy over in Western Australia, they made no effort to induct him. They just said to his mate, oh, can you explain that, And these, the whole Swiss cheese thing and all the holes line up. One day, it's going to matter that he didn't understand that you don't stand in the line of fire when you're welding a bin, Now, I've heard, the alternative to getting someone to do all of this research is the market solution. You get someone with a commercial motive like me to point it out. So I hope I'm doing good here. Nothing in what I say today is going to diminish your ability to exercise due diligence when procuring goods and services. Yeah? You're always going to get free quotes. You can weigh cost benefit. Yeah? But if no one's aware of a problem, they're not even going to start thinking about that. So I hope it's helpful in that sense. Now, one of our lecturers at Swinburne said, you can't regulate stupidity. You've heard that one before. Because, you put in all the mechanical and administrative and PP and the regulation, the training, you do everything, and then someone does something so stupid and they, crash the car or whatever. But I think, I've been thinking about it, and I think it's a bit of a cop-out, because if you call something stupid, it doesn't encourage further analysis. It makes you feel good and superior, but it doesn't say, okay, let's work out what went wrong here.
It makes them feel pretty shit.
Yeah, that's true too. If they're still alive.
Yeah.
But the problem is that all behaviour is perfectly well regulated by fear and knowledge. Okay? If you understand there's a risk and you're afraid of the consequences, and if you're empowered because you know what to do about it, well, you can do something about it. When those things are missing, then anything can happen. Shit will hit the fan. Yeah. So what I want to do is analyse some of these, not these particular issues, but just the whole problem of this weak spot in the legislation in terms of people's safety systems. So, to manage that risk, so every employer is at risk of being in breach of the legislation if they don't offer safety information in the appropriate language. Now, to get that, they have to decide, is English the appropriate language? And to get that, they have to test their English. Yeah? And to get that, the test results must be valid. Now, you recall 2 or 3 outages ago when the steam pipes, they had to redo the welds 2 or 3 times. You didn't ask the welders to test their own welds. Everyone here gets that. You get a third party with no fear to do the ultrasound and everything and say, you're going to have to cut that pipe and weld it again. Yeah? They've got no conflict of interest. They're just a testing authority. Yeah? Because if those test results were not valid, and if you ask the welder to test his own welds, that would not be a valid. And you all get that because there's a conflict of interest. Yeah? Now, what's the situation? I'm going to talk about basically what we do here, where we've got Japanese OEMs coming over. This is applicable to all sorts of situations. They've got so many Chinese and Korean welders working up in the Pilbara. They've got food process workers in food factories all over. They've got backpackers working on farms who don't speak English all over Australia. You've got people with less than native level English. But I'm just going to talk about our man here from Toshiba, yeah?
Yep.
And the like. What happens here? And I know I'm preaching to the choir because of all my clients, you'll all get this. They already sort of get this, but so many others don't, right? What happens? The man is sending over, can he speak English? Yes! Great! Ta-da! Is that a valid process, gentlemen? No, and here's why. Let's have a look. The Aussies, when they ask the question, they've got no idea. They don't test language for a living.
Yep.
They don't know how to measure these things objectively. Then they don't want to offend people. People go into this sort of mental state where they're asking someone's language ability and it suddenly becomes the story of their personal struggle. I've seen so many clients say, oh geez, you're doing all right, you know, your English is better than my Japanese, as though this is a fucking speech competition or like a language school. It's not, it's a big, $100 million outage. Everyone wants to minimise their costs. Now, if they don't see a problem, why the hell would they spend money on it? But every dollar that ever gets spent now is to solve a problem that if you go far back enough, no one saw, but then they saw it. Yeah? Ad hoc assessment produces false positives. Now this happens a lot, and I've seen it happen right here. People say, oh, he understands me perfectly because he nods and smiles. And then this literally happened. I walk up to him and say, do you understand what he just said? I said, no idea. I didn't want to say because it's so rude. That's the Japanese mentality. Yeah? It's also the mentality in most marriages. Anyway. They don't see it as a safety issue yet. They haven't converted this, they haven't linked it back to the legislation. Yeah? And here's the thing. This is an institutional problem. They don't realise that I'm talking about the employer, I'm talking about Energy Australia, it's their responsibility. They're the ones with the risk. They're the ones at risk of breaking a law and maybe contributing to an accident. They need to own that process. You don't ask them, hey, how's your English? It's good. Right? Why? Because there's another raft of problems. They don't have any expertise in language testing. They've already held themselves out as a company that can do business in English. Right? They've oversold that. And it might be true for their salespeople, but as you well know, not for their service people. They've signed a contract, they're locked into doing everything in English. They don't want to spend any money. Yeah? They can speak a little bit and say, no, that's all I wanted to say, when in fact they had a whole bunch of other stuff they would say. And I can report here, you guys know that when we're standing next to them, they unload on us. Yeah. We know more about that bloody turbine. Yeah. And then we look around and say, who do you want me to say it to? He says, no, it's all right. It's all right. Remember Kawasaki? Yeah. He used to go on and on about all this technical stuff, just telling us, because he wanted to say it to someone in Japanese. Yeah. And they can pretend to understand, as I said, and they are under enormous cultural and social pressure to be the English speaker. Their bosses sent them over, you speak English, get to Australia. Their subordinates saying, oh, our section chief, he speaks English, They're not going to say, you know what, I can't speak English. And you've got to see this in Japan, maybe not other countries, but English in Japan is such a career determinant. If you speak English, they study more English than we do, literally, in Japan. So
they started at kindergarten when we're doing face paint.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So as you can see, there's a list on each side that invalidates that process, yeah? The safest thing is safe behaviour. I made that up. Culture is a major determinant of behaviour. And when I say culture, I've got a definition. Culture is all the stuff that you do without really knowing why you do it. And if someone tries to stop you from doing it, your reaction is emotional, not rational. It's because your dad did it, your mum did it, everyone else does it, we always do it this, what's your fucking problem? It's like, this is what we do. That's culture. Yeah, that is hard behaviour to change. And you have to build that into your safety system. You have to take account of that stuff. Yeah. So what's to be done? You've got to fear the risk. You've got to know why it exists. I think I've established that structure. Yeah. You've got to know what to do about it. And the institutional change is you have to make the entire language issue your business and do not leave it to them. And this is something we've been through on lots of sites, this one as well, just in the safety induction. We rock up, and we've sort of taken the initiative here on behalf of Toshiba International in Sydney, because they drive them crazy as well. You know, if we get 3 TAs turn up here, or wherever, and they say, well, you've got to interpret for him, but they're not bad. You know, we now are in the habit of saying, we don't give a shit what you think about your English. They need to know you heard everything, so everything's getting translated. Just sit there and listen, right? There's no, okay, I'll let you just do that. No, that's rubbish, right? It's a process. You have to be seen and have a paper trail. We inducted them, okay? And if you want to have the conversation now, fine, but imagine the conversation in court, you know? Did you really understand the induction? Oh, I said I did on the day, but actually missed a few things. Why didn't you use the interpreter? I told him I didn't need it. You know, you don't want to go.
Yeah.
Now, there are ways of independently and objectively assessing language. Lots of bodies that test and all the rest of it. But there's a very low cost, low risk way of doing it yourself. Before I go through this list, the main thing is your state of mind. Remember I said before, everyone stops thinking like an engineer and starts thinking like another student. And they want to compliment them on their English. You've got to let go of that. You've got to be cold and hard and not modify your speech, okay? So if you're meeting a Japanese person, just using Yolanda as an example, you chat to them, don't slow down, don't use baby talk, talk to them like you talk to anyone else. That's the first step, right? This is about money and risk and program, yeah? Engage them in conversation. Ask open-ended questions, not yes or no questions. Say, what do you think about this? You know, is there a better way of doing this? Don't say, say, what is a better way of doing this? Yeah. Don't say, is there a better way? They'll say, yes.
Yeah. Just what you don't want.
If you say, what is a better way of doing this? And they say, yes, you know you've got a problem. Introduce things that have got nothing to do with work, because everyone says, oh no, we know what we're doing, we're engineers, we all know the deal. But try talking about the sport or politics and just see if they can keep up. Require them to report speech. In other words, say to them, what did Mr. So-and-so say to you before he left Japan? And get them to replay a conversation. That is a critical element of language, yeah? Oh, I came here because so-and-so was saying to such and such, and then he said this. And that was yesterday. You know, that's a skill that you need. If you haven't got that, your English is not up there, yeah? Hypotheticals, yeah? This throws the Japanese and the Thais and the Chinese very difficult in English. But when you say, what would have happened if we'd done this? Well, you know, see if they can keep up with that. Take careful note of how agile they are. Now, agile means, as they're speaking, are they aware of their own mistakes and do they correct them? Do they say to you, what was that? Sorry, didn't get that? Yep. Okay. Oh, what I meant to say was, no, here's another way to say it. Can they actually, are they sensitive to their own language, or are they just mechanically producing sentences, yeah? And this is the big one, because everyone, when I said before ad hoc assessment produces false positives, so many people satisfy themselves, oh, he speaks really good English. Why? Because I had a one-on-one discussion with him, we were looking at each other. Really? Is that all that we ever have to do? How about you sit in a bloody pre-start meeting and listen to Mago going and then ask him, did you understand everything they said? That's a different ballgame.
I think half the people in that room would probably say
You don't have to have a problem with English language.
Bad example. But those are all the things, and the only thing you have to do after that is ask this one big question. Now, if the answer to that is no, there's a problem. And when an engineer looks at a pump that's got a rated output of this much and it's only outputting that much, there's no hesitation. Don't worry about hurting someone's feelings. In fact, they would be derelict in their duty if they didn't immediately fix it or replace it. No one's going to argue with that. Okay, well, this is exactly the same. Communication is a critical process of everything we do. If it ain't functioning, it's not functioning. It's got to be fixed. So, I hope that has thrown some light on something that was a little murky